everyone, it's Jennifer with Rooted in the Rock, and I've got something dropping from the resource branch right now. Hey everyone, welcome to Rooted in the Rock. I'm so glad you're here. Before I get started, I just want to remind you, watch all the way till the end. I always include after the end slide, I always include little outtakes and fun bits. You might not find them funny. My kids enjoy them, so there they are. But catch that, maybe it'll get you a laugh for the day, okay? All right, now, today I want to talk about how you can take your craft or hobby and turn it into a ministry at the church. So our church has I want to say crafting ministry, because it started off as a group of ladies who sew, and it was really a sewing group ministry. And now it's kind of expanded, and it's really, we want to include anyone who does any kind of crafting, that kind of thing. Now, let me back up for a second. Before I talk about the present, let me talk about the past. A while back, oh gosh, a really long time ago now, actually, the first church that my husband and I went to when we got married, there was a knitting and crocheting group. I had learned how to crochet. His mom taught me before we were married how to do granny squares, and I just kind of expanded from there. But we used to go get together. It was kind of like a small group. Now, a lot of churches nowadays, they do small groups, okay? So it can start as a small group thing, or it can just be a small group thing. Either way, if it's a full-blown ministry or if it is a small group, it's still a ministry, just a different type, okay? So what we had at our first church, it was a small group, actually. So there's one idea, right? It was a small group, and we met, I think it was once or twice a month, okay? And we would just get together at one of the ladies' house, and we would bring our projects that we were working on. So I always have I had a bigger bag. I do have a bigger bag. This is my current bag that I typically use. It's just a Vera Bradley bag that I just really liked. And it's not like purse material, because like it's just an open bag, but I keep whatever project I'm working on, and then I can just take it with me. If I know I'm going to be waiting for an hour in the parking lot for someone to come out of a dance class or something like that, I just grab it, take it with me in the car or wherever. And so what we would do is, it was a small group. We would go to this one lady's house. It varied, but not very much. Most of the time it was this one person's house. And we would just all kind of gather in the living room. It would be in the evening, and we would bring our current projects with us and work on whatever we were working on, and we would fellowship and chat, and it was really, really great. And actually, we did, some of them knitted, some of them crocheted, and so we would teach each other. So some of the knitters wanted to learn how to crochet, and some of the crocheters wanted to learn how to knit, and there were times where we would spend some time trying to teach each other how to do, our bit. So, and what we ended up doing, one of the great things was, it wasn't just a small group of, let's get to know some people that we're in this church family with, but it also turned into a type of ministry where what we did is we made blankets, lap blankets. We did hats and scarves, especially because there was another ministry at the church. They would go to downtown, and they had a homeless ministry, and they would every Saturday, I don't remember, it was every week, they would go downtown to a certain place and feed the homeless. They would feed them, they would bring them, socks, sometimes shoes, clothes, whatever they had to bring that week, they would take down there. So we would knit and crochet hats and scarves, especially in the winter, of course, but hats and scarves and things like that, and we would send them with them, and they would pass them out to the homeless. Anything little, we could do to help. So that made us feel really good. We got to do what we loved to do, but it was also ministering to someone really needed that warm hat on a cold night, or someone really needed a scarf to help keep them warm. And we were able to do that for them. So that was really great. So, it could be, so one thing is maybe a small group of crafters and different hobbies. It doesn't have to be something like sewing or knitting or anything like that. It could be woodworking. If there are several guys at the church who like to do woodworking, how about they get together and make projects, or, so small group. Now, come back to where I was, forward in time to current. Okay, so we have a crafting ministry at the church, and it's not a small group, as it's more like a ministry where we meet up at the church and do things like that. Now, they, in previous, I don't know as much about what they've done previously. I just know that they started with a group of people who sewed, and they would get together and sew things and teach each other, and very, very similar. And so now what we're wanting to do is expand that. And it's because there are other people that want to get involved that maybe don't know how to sew, but they do other types of crafts. Okay, we have people who make jewelry, we have people who crochet, and I want to say there's at least one or two that knit. They're so similar. It's pretty much the same thing, but it's very different. If you know what I'm talking about. Knitting is 2 straight needles, and crocheting is just with 1 hook. It actually works very differently. So, anyway, there are people that do, we have people that do, all kinds of things. Different people have different. So one of the things I'm going to be trying to do I'm going to be helping out with that now. And one of the things I want to do is projects together that you don't have to know how to sew. You don't have to, necessarily know how to do any particular thing, but craft projects that we can get together to do things for fun. But also what we want to do is kind of like what we used to do with my old small group, is link up with other ministries and other places in the community that we can help by using our crafting talents. So, for instance, coming up, our church is involved we partner with, there's a pregnancy center that we help, bring things to, supplies that new mothers need and things like that. And so I came up with, I looked around online, and I found this really neat little project that we could do. The sewers are going to do part, and then everybody else is going to do other parts to put this thing together. And it's a little gift for new mothers that's going to be really great. I'm pretty excited, actually. And so that's coming up. But that's just like an example of one of the things you can do is team up with ministries. There might be a pregnancy center. It might be a homeless. There could be, a hospital in your area. A lot of times they love people to bring them things like cancer caps, or which could be sewing or crochet or knit. Other things too, depending on what you're making and how you're making it. Little beanie hats for newborn babies. We got one at the hospital we were at. Somebody had made some, and we brought one home on our little one's noggin, and it was so special. I still have it. It was so special to me. And so, little hats for newborns, because they get cold. They've been in a nice warm cocoon, and when they're newborn, you got to keep them warm. And so, I already said cancer caps. So there could be a hospital you could do things for, lap blankets. If there is a chemotherapy center, a cancer center near you, a lot of times things like lap blankets, games. We have a friend from college who she passed away, it might have been 5 years ago by now. I don't remember, but several years ago now. But she had cancer, and one of the things that her family did, what they ended up doing was they would take games and certain goodies and things to the cancer center, and she's been gone that many years now, but they still go every year, like on her birthday, to honor her. They go to the cancer center and they take, packs of cards and games and books and things for people, because you're there for hours when you're doing cancer treatments. there are people there for like iron treatments and other things too that may not have cancer as well, but you're hooked up to that IV for literally for hours, and just sitting in a chair for hours. And it's hard. So things that you can take to help that are really, really great. And that's not necessarily something you're making, but that's one example of how. But lap blankets, if you're crafting, which is what I was talking about specifically, the hats or lap blankets are really great if you're sitting in a chair and, you just want to be comfy, cozy. And a lot of times they get cold, especially if you have like iron deficiency. The lap blankets are really great for that. So there's that. Let's see. Hospital, cancer center, the pregnancy center, homeless ministry. The possibilities, I don't want to say the possibilities are endless, but there are so many possibilities. If we just open our eyes and look around and look at your community around the church, the city that the church is in, or town or county or whatever, it depends on where you live, look and see. I know there's our county has, not too far away actually, there is a children's shelter that I have a lot of friends that donate to them and do things with them. So there are all kinds of things you could do if you're crafting to hook up and minister to the people around you. So, just look around, see where there's a need. And if you don't see anything, then ask around. Go to the hospital and talk to an administrator and ask them if there's anything that you guys can do to serve them. Or go to a local school and see if there's anything that you guys can do to serve the school. Sometimes they might have some kids who need clothes or backpacks, or who knows. A lot of churches around here do backpack ministries too. But as it pertains to crafting, though, you'll just have to see what people need and what you can do. But with crafting specifically, there are things like I already mentioned you could do. But also, you could do something with your crafting, with your hobbies. You can do things to help raise funds for missions and the church, or if the church needs money, maybe the church needs new carpet or pews or something like that. You can do a craft show. I just saw just today, I think it was today on Facebook. I was flipping through, and there are, so many friends are interested in events, and I was just kind of scrolling through just to see what's going on, what everybody's looking at. And there was a church that had advertised they're doing their spring, what do they call it? It was a spring craft show basically, but it was spring market, I think is what they called it. Anyway, they had a picture of, the church lawn and all like just filled up with tents. When you go to like a festival or a craft show and everybody has those 10 by 10 tents and, they have set up with all their things. So your church could do something like that. Or our church our little town here does a lot of parades, and they do a Christmas parade. And we had talked about last year, it didn't happen. We didn't manage to make it happen, which is fine because I think the weather was bad anyway, if I remember right. But what you could do if your town has some kind of parade or thing going on, you could set up little booths. If your church is near the main street or near the parade route, you could set up little booths to sell things or help people out then as well. But a little craft show, you could do a little market, a crafters market, and different people. And you can have, people that sew things can sell things that they sew, or a Christmas market. A lot of people love to do a Christmas market too. But just remember, if you're doing something like that, I'm on the like that again, I'm sorry. If you're doing something of that type, just remember, like before Christmas, you want to make sure to do it plenty ahead of time. So in crafting, a lot of people complain about, oh, the store already has Christmas stuff in it, blah. Especially Hobby Lobby gets it super early. But I always remind, anytime I hear anybody doing that, I'm like, well, remember, if someone is crafting something, making something to sell at a festival, or at fall festivals especially, you'll find a lot of Christmas things, so you can buy it in time for the Christmas season. the Christmas craft shows and all of those type of events, they happen a couple of months to a month before Christmas. People need to buy these things ahead of time. So people want to buy these things ahead of time, which means you got to make them ahead of that time. So the Christmas things coming into, I don't know about the stores in the mall, those kinds of stores, but stores like Hobby Lobby, sometimes Walmart, well, yeah, Walmart and Target, more Walmart than Target. Sometimes they'll sell crafting supplies as well. But crafting supplies, it's got to come out earlier in the store, because some of these projects, some of these things that people make take a really long time, or especially if they're trying to make a stock enough to take to a show. For some people, that's their livelihood. That's really how they make their money. So with craft stores, especially Hobby Lobby, I don't fuss too much about that kind of stuff coming out early, just because I know that people got to make that stuff ahead of time, and sometimes it takes a long time. Anyway, so craft show, art show. So make sure, if you're going to do something like that, schedule it ahead of time. Schedule it way ahead of time, so that your crafters have time to make enough things to have a decent amount to sell. And you want to be able to advertise it ahead of time too. And not necessarily like pay for advertising, and but there are ways you can advertise ahead of time. You can spread the word without having to spend a bunch of money, and advertise it ahead of time. And then you want to have it early enough in the Christmas season. You don't want to have it any later than a couple of weeks before Christmas. You don't want to have it any later than that. You want it to be earlier. And that time of year is very, very packed with Christmas parties and all kinds of things of that nature too. So just be careful and think about where and when and why, right? You can have a yard sale any day. Just put a sign out and say, we're going to have a yard sale, but that's not necessarily going to mean anybody going to come to your yard sale. You know what I'm saying? So, wow, I sounded really Southern right there. Anyway, so that's really all I can think of at the moment. However, I mean, that's still a lot though. There are a lot of possibilities. So like I said, just look around, see, look into, your church family, and there are a lot of people that have like crafting hobbies that you never have any idea, because you've never really talked to them about personal stuff. Like there are a lot of people that do things that don't really advertise that they do those certain things, and you never know until something comes up. So maybe, you can always put the feelers out there, right? The old expression, put the feelers out. Like you can always just ask around or announce it in church and be like, hey, we're thinking about maybe doing a small group to do this, or maybe grouping up to, you can try just having one. You could always, kind of dip your toes in and try to do one little get together event and see how it turns out. See how it turns out, see who comes out of the woodwork. But I would suggest, like ours, how it started off with sewing, which if you have like a huge group of sewers, they might want to have their own group of just sewing. Or there might be a lot of people that want to learn how, and that's one thing. That's another thing I was thinking you could do as well was, you have your groups and doing your ministry for the different places. You could also do, depending on your community, how big or small it is and what people are interested in, you could have free classes and just invite the neighborhood, invite the community to come. Hey, we're hanging out and learning how to do this today. Come join us. Like, it doesn't have to be, you're not trying to lure them in so you can like smack them with the Bible upside the head. Okay. Don't be like that. Don't pounce on them like vultures as they come in. But, just make that a way that you can interact with your community. And if you say, well, hey, we're learning how to do this today, you're welcome to come. And, maybe you'll strike a friendship. Maybe they'll want to come back. Maybe they'll come for a church service sometime. You never know. But, that's just one way that you can interact with your community, because that's part of what we're called to do, is be a blessing to those around us. And that's something we can do. We can use our talents and our hobby. Your hobby can be more than just I do this for fun, which crafting and people who do crafting and those types of things, it is for fun. But it can be more than that. The things you do just for fun can be an opportunity to talk to someone that you would never normally talk to, right? So use your crafting as a ministry. If you don't have a group or a ministry like that at church, it doesn't hurt to ask, see if anybody else wants to get together and do it. It may just be 3 people. But you know what? 3 people can make a whole lot of hats and scarves for the homeless. And if you don't have a homeless issue in your area, or you don't have a cancer center nearby, or whatever the case may be, you can maybe find one somewhere near, or so you can ship it somewhere. You could always you can take one box and put a whole lot of cancer caps into one box. Like, a lot of that will fit in one tiny box that you can ship to somewhere, anywhere that needs it, right? So just see, look around, see, you never know. God brings people together when, in ministry, it is crazy. It's not crazy, but it'll blow your mind sometimes how he puts people in certain places at certain times who can do certain things. It can amaze you. So just, look around, just try it out and see if you're not a crafter, what is your hobby? A lot of people love to do book clubs. What if you did a little book club kind of thing? We've been doing our women's and men's ministry, actually. Lately, we've been doing Bible studies, but they're book studies, not just like we're going to come together to study the Bible. No, there's a particular book that they pick for each one, and there's a video that goes with it, and we do this whole, because otherwise you're not going to sit there and read that book at home on your own. So when there's a study going on at church, so same thing with the crafting. There might be a whole lot of people that would love to learn. I've had all kinds of people tell me, oh, I'd love learn how to do this. I love how to learn how to do that. I'm like, I could show you. All you need is the opportunity to get together, right? So try it out. You could totally use your crafting or your hobby as a ministry at your church. Try it out. Let me know how it goes. Like, if you have a particular crafting ministry, or if you have a crafting ministry or some kind of hobby that you do special things with at your church, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what other people are doing. Maybe you have a particular event that you do. Anything that can help anyone else, that would be super great. Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to hit the like button if this was helpful or inspiring, hopefully. And subscribe for future content. And I'll see you next time. A lot of it's junk though. Not all of it's funny. No, fast forward, go back, that doesn't make sense. What was I gonna say? No bunny trails. I'm gonna cut this sucker up. That's totally off topic. Never mind. So hot today. It's getting hot outside. That one's for my girls.